Welcome. My name is Grandma Storm. I write stories for young adults. Today I am reading chapters 61 through 65 in my book, The Book of Faith. Faith woke in a black room. She stretched out her hand and felt something soft. She was cold. She pulled her knees to her chest, covering her legs with her cloak. She was hungry. As her mind cleared, she remembered the hunks of bread stuffed in her pockets. She found one and slowly ate it. Where was she? It smelled of too many animals, like a filthy barn. Then she remembered. She and Dr. Luce left the room of dolls together. She followed the man through the palace. He pulled her behind a tapestry and told her to look through a hole into a vast room. She saw someone, a blonde woman, crawling around on the stacks. When the woman found a plate, she stopped to eat. Then she saw Skiva walk in and lie on the floor. An old man walked by. Skiva tripped him. Then Skiva sprang up and showed the man something. What do your young eyes see? Dr. Luce said as his lips touched her ear. His breath was foul. She put her hand over her nose. I see Skiva talking to an old man. What is the old man wearing? A black robe with gold ribbons on his collar. He pulled back the tapestry, grabbed her hand, and hurried her away. Excuse me, please. Will I see the queen soon? The dear queen. The dear queen, Faith repeated. I am hungry. She was kind to me and gave me something to eat. He stopped. Without looking back, he said, There is a change of plans. You will be eating with the dear queen's grandmother. She is old. Her skin is quite red. You must not be frightened of her. You would not mind if she asked you a question, would you? I suppose not. If she asks you to do little things, would that be difficult? If she asked you to hop on one foot, try on some clothes, sing a song, or if she asked you to open your mouth so she can see your teeth, that would not be too hard, would it? I guess not. Good. You will be given something to eat after you do what she asks. They rounded a mound of boxes and came to a heavy door flanked by brown leathers. The door opened, and they were ushered in. The ladies in waiting scurried away from Dr. Luce like mice dodging a cat. He took Faith by the hand and led her to a lump seated in a wheelchair. A red, scabby head, topped with gray tufts, swiveled to look at Faith. Shaky fingers reached for the little girl. Faith looked to Dr. Luce. He nodded and stepped back. Oh, so tiny. Is she not a delight? Brown hair. Dr. Luce, she has brown hair. No curls, straight as a stick. But oh well. Come here, little one. How sweet. Just like I was talking about yesterday. Ladies, I was talking about brown hair yesterday. Was I not? The ladies in waiting acknowledged the comment with agreeable twitters. Oh, such blue eyes! The dolly has big blue eyes, continued the red, scaly face as it leaned toward Faith. You were presented at the feast, were you not? Faith nodded. The snaky face drew closer. Do you want anything, my little blue-eyed, brown-haired darling? You are precious and must be given anything you want. Anything, rasped the snake lips. Well, Faith said with hesitation, I would like something to eat. The snaky face twisted to Dr. Luce. Have you not fed the little charmer? No, I thought after examination, if she proved worthy, she might eat. Ridiculous. It is obvious she is flawless. Do not you ladies agree? The ladies in waiting acknowledged the comment with gentle accolades of purring murmurs. Bread, wine, fruit, meat, sweets for my new dolly, ordered the lump in the wheelchair. Ladies in waiting and brown leathers jumped to obey. Faith did not notice Dr. Luce lift her onto the dear Queen's lap, for it was she. She was no grandmother. Dr. Luce was lying, but then he often lied and had no trouble with it. Crystal goblets brimming with honeyed wines were offered. Faith sipped. Candied fruits swimming in cream were presented in gold dishes. Faith nibbled. A basket piled with rolls and breads was handed to her. She was urged to eat as much as she wanted. May I put a roll in my pocket? The dear Queen looked into the blue eyes, traced the child's pink cheek with a twisted finger, and rasped, Of course, my sweet. Ladies, is she not the most precious little puppet you have ever seen? Don't you just want to eat her up? Faith pocketed a roll. Faces surrounded Faith like a living wreath constructed of powdered noses and rouged cheeks. Someone urged her to put another roll in her pocket. This idea generated giggles amongst the ladies. Tickling the little girl, they stuffed her pockets with candy and fruit. The dear Queen sat back and let them have their fun. Faith began to look quite lumpy. The ladies tickling her, the dear Queen spooning sweets into her mouth, the rich food in her stomach, became overpowering. Faith began to cry. Get back! Screeched the dear Queen. You idiots! Can't you see you are distressing my petite? The ladies in waiting jumped like they had been slapped. They mumbled apologies. The dear Queen's scowl silenced them. One or two whimpered. The dear Queen turned back to Faith. Oh, now, soothed the cracked lips. No need to cry. You just need a little air. Those stupid women crowding you so. What are they thinking? They're idiots. The dear Queen glanced about. All the ladies nodded in full agreement that they were idiots. My sweet, I will take care of you. Here is food and plenty of it. You shall have you fat in no time. Then we will play dress up. That will be fun. Such a darling, such a sweetheart, such a perfect dolly. Faith looked into the bulging eyes. The grandmother might be ugly, but she was giving her food. Thank you. You are kind. The scabby face crinkled into a grimace that attempted a smile. The skin cracked and seeped blood. The blood combined with drool from lizard lips and dripped onto a plate of minced mutton. Here you are, my darling, cooed the red skull as she spooned a savory bite into the little girl's parted lips. You are a beautiful dolly. I love you. I want you to be my dolly forever. Do you like this? Nodded the scabbed head, indicating more food. Do you want more? Are you still hungry, my little puppet? Oh, no, thank you. Oh, good. Shall we play dress up? I have so many pretty dresses and wigs and sparkly slippers. It will be fun. Grandmother, the filmy eyes narrowed. How dare you call me grandmother? Blazed the dear queen as she writhed in the wheelchair. The impertinence! Whatever gave you the idea of such bold familiarity? Faith's wide eyes met the serpent's squint. The child explained in a quiet voice. The man that brought me here, he told me you were a grandmother. I never knew my grandmother. I suppose I had one, but I never knew her. I don't even remember my mother, so I thought I might pretend to have a grandmother. Oh, I see, muttered the dear queen as her slitted eyes slid to the man standing in the corner. Dr. Luce, are we playing a little game? The doctor nodded. The ladies in waiting held their collective breath to see if their regent might erupt. Less sin than this sent people to the camps. The dear queen turned to Faith and stroked her hair. The ladies in waiting breathed again. My little dolly, purred the dear queen, so right to play a little game. Dr. Luce always thinks himself clever, but I like this game. Yes, I want to be your grandmother. Now shall we play dress up? Yes, murmured Faith. I think that would be all right, grandmother. The dear queen emitted a shrill cry of joy. Orders were issued for trunks to be brought, cases to be found, and boxes to be opened. The ladies in waiting pulled out wigs and silks, jewels and laces, furs and hats. Fingers that had been stuffing candies in her pockets now unbuttoned her clothes, unbuckled her shoes, and pulled her socks. Faith saw her clothes tossed to a corner. One moment Faith was swathed in blue furs, the following in green silks. A pink wig and a purple cap were tied over Faith's brown bob. Those were yanked off. A tiara of black diamonds was placed on her head, then snatched away. One lady in waiting dabbed paint on Faith's skin. In between different ensembles, new paint was slathered on her face and arms. What color is my face now? Asked the child. Yellow, but I think I will try green. No, mused the dear queen, white, and put that ruby crown on her. Jewels were pinned to bonnets on Faith's head. Gold bracelets were snapped on her wrists and ankles. Each new combination brought squeals of delight from the dear queen. Oh, this is a treat. Do not you ladies think this is the prettiest little baby ever to enter my collections? Babbled the dear queen. The ladies all twittered in absolute agreement. Never was there a prettier child. It was quite a frenzy when a little voice interrupted the excitement. Grandmother. What? Snapped the dear queen. She had quite forgotten her new dolly had a voice, or that she was even alive. May I be done? I need to put on my own clothes and leave. I want to find Pa. Whatever are you talking about, child? You have been kind, but I need to find him. I think I know where to go. What? You are my new baby doll. We will dress you so pretty, and then you will enter my collection. Dr. Luce, talk to the puppet. Child, be silent. Submit. Oh, you are no help at all. You are always so imposing, shrieked the dear queen. The baby is sweet and gentle. She is my granddaughter. She can have anything she wants. You, on the other hand, are demanding and commanding, taxing and boring. You know nothing about talking to dollies. Why do I even employ you as counselor? Turning to Faith, the dear queen soothed in a sing-song voice. I want you to make you happy. Is there anything you need, my sweet, anything you want? Pointing at Dr. Luce, Faith said, He took my necklace. May I have it back, please? The eyes of the Deer Queen narrowed. The scabby head slowly swiveled to examine Dr. Luce. What is the puppet talking about? Are you despicable enough to take a trinket from a child? Wait, don't answer that. Of course you are, you evil, evil man. I hate you, I say. Ladies, ladies, gather around and regard a man so low. He would steal a bauble from a baby. At this command, the ladies in waiting surrounded the Deer Queen and stared down their long noses at the despicable Dr. Luce. Dr. Luce held a steady gaze with the filmy eyes of the Deer Queen. Faith slipped out of the grandmother's lap as the serpent uncoiled out of her chair. The ladies in waiting squeaked manifold agreements with the Deer Queen as they backed away, seeking cover behind baskets, boxes, and the odd pile of junk. They had witnessed these little spats before. Dr. Luce decided not to fight. This time, the child was going into the collections. He would have the key soon anyway. He fished Faith's necklace out of his black robe and tossed it to the girl. The Deer Queen sank into her wheelchair, but her mood changed. She no longer wanted to play with her new dolly. She jerked her head. The brown leathers bound to her chair and pushed her from the room. Dr. Luce followed. The ladies in waiting poked their heads out to see if all was clear. They scurried away, following Dr. Luce as he followed the Deer Queen. The last one pulled the door shut with a decided click and the slide of a bolt. Faith was alone. She ran to the door and tried the knob. It would not turn. The grandmother's dress-up clothes were scratchy and stiff. Pulling them off, Faith found a rag and wiped the paint from her skin as best she could. Wishing she could have a bath, Faith put on her own clothes, shoes, and necklace. Then she remembered what Nicanor said about her key. He said it was a master key. She ran to the door and put it in the keyhole. As she twisted, a very neat click loosened the knob, and it turned in her hand. Yet the door would not open. Not realizing the last lady in waiting bolted the door on the outside, Faith thought she had not turned it correctly. She turned the key again. The knob would not budge. Why won't it work? Then she noticed a brass box with a keyhole. In went the key. Click! It opened. Inside were hundreds of hairpins matted with gray hair and dander. Oh, the grandmothers, when she had more hair, thought the little girl. She spied a locked trunk. Click! It was filled with gold bangles, desiccated birds, and yellow teeth. Yuck! That made her think of her new loose tooth. Her tongue wiggled it, and the tooth fell out. She put it in the box with the other teeth and closed the lid. Then she saw a tall chest against the far wall. Climbing over a tangle of fishing nets, she saw the chest was full of keyholes. Faith unlocked a tiny drawer on the bottom panel. She put in her hand and felt a knob. It reminded her of the secret compartments at the giant's fortress. So she turned it. A panel on the side of the chest slid open. A package wrapped in blue silk tumbled out and fell into a sack of little shoes. Faith picked it up. Something hard and thin was wrapped in the blue silk. A tag was attached. It read, "Live by faith, not by sight." It must be for me, thought Faith. So she unwrapped it. It was something she had never seen before. It was a mirror. The mirror flashed, reflecting the light from the bulb suspended overhead. Faith turned it to her face. What she saw were wide blue eyes. Suddenly, they were not her eyes, but her mother's eyes. Then she remembered. She remembered her mother running, carrying her, trying to escape from the grandmother. She remembered her mother's frightened eyes. Pa always said her eyes were just like her mother's. She remembered. She remembered her mother hiding with her during the day and running with her at night. She remembered brown leathers chasing them. She remembered sneaking into barns and cowering in the woods. She remembered her mother begging people to help them. She remembered Pa taking them into his cottage. She remembered her mother dying. Faith heard voices. Footsteps approached. The trundling sound of the wheelchair was at the door. The bolt to the door was pulled back, and the door unlocked. The Deer Queen, her entourage of brown leathers, ladies in waiting, a host of courtiers with Dr. Luce, crowded into the room. Faith stood frozen, holding the mirror closed in her fist. "Oh, my poor little dolly," sang the Deer Queen. "You have jumped out of the pretty clothes. No worries, my darling. We will have you perfect for the collections in no time. Ladies, put the puppet on my lap. We will begin again. Everything was all wrong anyway. I decided those black diamonds looked ridiculous. I have new ideas for the baby doll. Let us try something." Before Faith could be lifted to the Deer Queen's lap, Dr. Luce spoke. "You never examined the child." "You are entirely exasperating," spat the Deer Queen, turning on Dr. Luce. "I can never understand your insistence for all these rules. She is flawless. She is my dolly. She will be the prize of my collection." The ladies in waiting twittered, echoing the Deer Queen's royal opinions. "You never examined the child," repeated Dr. Luce. The lump in the chair began rising. The ladies in waiting scurried to their defensive positions. "I hate you," hissed the Deer Queen. But she settled back into her wheelchair, and the ladies crept out. "Dolly, come here." Twisted fingers grabbed Faith's cheek and cupped her face just like Pa would do. Faith pulled away. "Naughty child, come here. Let me do as I want." Dr. Luce put his hand to the back of Faith's neck and pushed her to the Deer Queen. "How old are you, child?" demanded the scabby face. "I am 7. "What? That cannot be. You are too small. Is she not too small, Dr. Luce? You are 5 at the most, maybe 5 1/2. "No, I remember my birthday. I went on a walk with Sonia and Anna. I saw a gold ribbon in the wood. I ran home to tell Pa. It was my 7th birthday." "You are a hopeless chatter. What is all this about Sonia and Anna? Who are they?" "My donkey and my turtle dove." "Ridiculous. Dr. Luce, you have brought me an idiot that chatters about donkeys and birds. Now, that gold ribbon. Where is it now?" "I burned it." "What? So you stole it and then burned it? You are a thief, an arsonist. Crimes upon crimes. What other iniquities do you harbor, you little wench?" "No, I never took it. I think Skiva tied it in my hair. After the whisper told me to go with Skiva, I took it out of my hair and burned it in the fire." "Skiva," murmured Dr. Luce. "Skiva," hissed the Deer Queen. "Examine this girl." "Open your mouth," ordered Dr. Luce. Faith complied, her tongue straying to the open gap. She appears to be over the age of collection, observed Dr. Luce. She is losing her milk teeth. She is older than she appears. What? Screamed the dear queen. Why am I always given nothing but blasted disappointment? Who brought me this good-for-nothing so-called prize? It was that black spider, Skiva, wasn't it? What kind of trick is this? Too old for the collections, too young for a mirror. Tell me, girl, what are you good for? Well, I don't know, murmured Faith. And what is your name? Where is your father? Where is your mother? Spat the scabbed head as it swayed back and forth. Pa is on the other side of the mountain. My mother is under a green hill. What absurdities! What are your parents? Trolls, living under hills and mountains? The dear queen thought that quite a joke. She snickered at the girl. She hooted at Dr. Luce. She giggled at the ladies in waiting. The dear queen turned to the girl, scanning her from head to toe. Tell me, my little brown-haired, blue-eyed troll, what is your name? Faith. Absurd, that is not a proper name. The dear queen was about to launch into another fit of hysteria when she noticed Faith clenching something in her fist. Thoughts of thievery jumped to the dear queen's mind. The little wench was a confessed thief. Had she not stolen a gold ribbon? What do you have in your hand? Faith held the mirror to the serpent's face. The dear queen's eyes locked on the image of the fiend in the mirror. Ladies in waiting scurried to hide. Courtiers opened the door and fled. Brown leathers followed. Dr. Luce closed his eyes. A shriek from the depths of hell roared from the dear queen's mouth. She reared from the chair. With both hands she grabbed the child and threw her across the room. What have you done to me, you little monster? Who needs to wait any ceremony? I do not care what the darkness commands. I want to kill her now, roared the dear queen as she uncoiled from the wheelchair. Once again, Faith held up the mirror to the face of the dear queen. Screaming, the monster fell back. Dr. Luce grabbed Faith by the neck. The child dropped the mirror and snatched at his arm, gasping for breath. There will be perdition to pay for that little act, hissed Dr. Luce into Faith's ear. Shifting the struggling child, Dr. Luce carried her out. Finding a brown leather down the hall, he tossed her to the man. Follow me. The men raced through the palace and plunged into the labyrinth of Topeth. Arriving at the dear queen's royal arena, they descended into dim tunnels, stopping before a low iron door. Dr. Luce slid a bolt and opened it. Throw the baggage in. The door clanged shut, locking Faith in the dark. Before the little girl could recover her thoughts, there was a snuffling in her ear, and a set of teeth nipped the back of her neck. 62. Huddling amongst the dear queen's collections, Ashiel told Tirzah what he had seen at the temple. We must leave, asserted Ashiel. I have wanted to leave since I came, but now I am compelled. We must escape together. Of course, murmured Tirzah. Where? Home? I don't think so. How would we travel such a distance? Remember, we barely survived the first time. Brown leathers are well fed. They have dogs to track and horses to ride. Besides, going home would be the expected thing. I want to go home too, but I think we must go somewhere else first. I don't know any place other than home and this horrid Topeth. Ashiel took Tirza's hand. She was cold. She closed her eyes and leaned her head on his shoulder. He gathered her in his arms and talked low. I have not just been studying horology and philosophy. The scholars did not know it. But while doing research at the temple, I found books with maps. Listen to me. The dear Queen's lands do not go on forever. There are places beyond her control. Remember Stranger? He talked of a king with lands beyond this forsaken abyss. Look, Tirza. Tirza opened her eyes and saw Ashiel handing her a book. What is this? Where did you get it? When I lost my way in the temple, I found this. Maybe it found me. It doesn't matter. As far as I can tell, it is just like Stranger's book. Ashiel opened the book. Look what it says here. I will lift my eyes to the mountains, from whence cometh my help. What does it mean, Ashiel? I don't know all it means. But when I read those words, my heart leapt within me. I remembered one of the maps showing mountains. I read of the range of the Nephilim. They lie to the east, past the dear Queen's lands. It might be legend, but the map indicates giants rule there. Anything or anyone, giant or no, is better than Topeth. We have each other. We can run. If you can, find some food, put it in a bag, and meet me here after the ceremony. It is impossible to leave now. The absence of the mirror would raise a full alarm before we could get beyond the walls. Afterward, when everyone is dead tired, we can steal away. No one will look for us for hours. 63. A little more padding in the chest, muttered Skiva. By the by, I do not think this spider embroidered in the collar is quite right. See, it is not exactly like the other. The tailor helped Skiva off with his new waistcoat. Yes, of course. I am sure I can make the changes and have it for you in the morning. What? And not be properly attired for the dear Queen? She for whom only the best will do. You idiot. I must wear this tonight. Tonight is the eve of the day of congregation. I, Skiva, will sit by her side. You should be grateful for my patronage. Yes, of course. Praise be to the dear Queen. You will make these alterations immediately. Skiva paused and murmured, Besides, I have gold. Skiva produced his purse and dangled it before the eyes of the ragged tailor. He bounced it with his long fingers so the man could hear the jingle of coins. You will be paid, but only if I am pleased with. Before Skiva could compose another artful phrase to further impress the tailor, the door of the shop was thrown open by a trio of brown leathers. Strong arms snatched Skiva. Without support of his spidery hand, the precious bag of gold hung in the air. The door slammed. The tailor stood with his mouth open, the black plush waistcoat still in his hand. Gravity overcame time and had its way with the bag of gold. It fell, split, and spewed coins throughout the shop. The tailor recovered his senses, spent a profitable hour prospecting for gold on his shop floor, found his wife, told her to fetch her hat, and closed the shop. He had heard a rumor of a bakery that sold fresh bread. Of course, the prices were high, but then he could afford it. 64. Tirza ran to the dear Queen's royal apartments. She was late, but this was the last time. As soon as the ceremonies were done, she and Ashel would escape. Her mind was busy with details: what to wear, where to find food, how to carry it. She burst into the royal apartments, ready for the usual reprimand from the ladies in waiting. If that maid slapped her face one more time. Silence. How odd. Tirza was accustomed to the chaos of the dear Queen's collections, but the room looked like a battle had taken place. Then she saw her, the lump in the wheelchair, already sat before the empty frame. Tirza panicked. How was she to get to the other side without the dear Queen seeing her? To her ears came the soft sound of a gentle snore. Ah, the dear Queen had nodded off, and everyone had left. That must be the explanation. I'll just slip into my place and wait. Tirza took her place before the frame. The dear Queen's filmed eyes were open to slits. Blood dripped from snaky lips. It was then that Tirza noticed bits and pieces of ladies in waiting scattered about. The dear Queen's eyes widened. The bloody lips rolled back, exposing yellow fangs. Tirza mimicked each expression. My mirror is a bit tardy, hissed the dragon tongue. Tirza mirrored each word and each action. The dear Queen leaned toward Tirza until their noses touched. The foul smell made it difficult for Tirza to breathe. My dear, cool blonde, how are we today? Panic rose in Tirza, but she held the dear Queen's stare. The monster fell back, confused. The girl fell back as well. They sat there contemplating one another. Liar! Liar! Screamed the dear Queen as she grabbed for the girl's throat. With one jump, Tirza escaped the dear Queen's attack and bound for the door. She yanked it open and fled down the hall straight into the arms of Dr. Luce and a contingent of brown leathers. Put her in the cage with the other one, ordered the doctor. The iron grip of a brown leather closed on Tirza's arm. As she was led away, she looked back to see Dr. Luce go into the room of the raging serpent and close the door. 65. The sculptor sat in his studio, admiring the statue. Maybe my best work, thought the artist. The girl's graceful form rode on the back of a rearing stallion. Her likeness was unmistakable. He hoped the dear Queen would be satisfied. With a sigh, he got up and walked to the window. His eyes turned to the sky. He was hoping to see a break in the thick clouds. He was in a sunny mood and would like to see a ray of sunshine to match. His ear caught the sound of heavy boots. He switched his gaze from the sky to the street. Then he saw her. The dear Queen's mirror was being marched off by a troop of brown leathers. They took a sharp turn and disappeared around a pile of trunks. He closed his eyes and sighed. He thought in the future he would carve the statues with heads that could be changed out as needed. No one need be the wiser. Thank you for listening. To hear more of the story, please come back soon, or you may purchase your own copy on Amazon. Just follow the link below. Until next time.